Hello, everyone. Do it again. Hello, everyone. I'm definitely screaming. Let's do it again. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm so excited because today we are drinking more wine and I'm going to be knitting while I talk about my top 5 favorite books that I've read in the last year or so. Reading has always been something that has really calmed my brain down. Knitting has been as well. So as I cannot read the books, I thought what would be a great way to pair them two together, and it would be knitting while I talk about my favorite books while I also drink a glass of wine. So if that interests you, sit back, relax, relax, grab your glass of wine or whatever beverage you like, and come get comfy with me. I have my knitting right here. This is a blanket, scarf, mitten, hat, whatever I like it to be. I've been knitting this for quite some time now. Knitting is something that I just go to whenever I'm just having a moment, feeling kind of stressed. So every time that I'm stressed or I'm just I have a night where I have some extra time to myself or feeling I need a little bit of a distraction and calm my brain down, knitting is something that I can just do and zone out. I don't talk, I don't do anything, I don't even look at Ross, I don't even acknowledge him. I just knit away, and it's such a good stress reliever. So I thought it'd be nice to do this today while I talk about my favorite books. I actually find it really funny because I feel so many people have never realized how much I love reading. I can zip through books so fast, incredibly fast. Whenever I tell people I'm reading and stuff like that, they always kind of get a little shocked because I'm so sporadic that reading is something that I feel a lot of people that are calmer do, but because people don't see me a lot behind closed doors by myself and in my house or in my safe space, or see me in my safe split, or see me in my safe space, then they don't really know that that's the type of thing that I love to do. So let's get into knitting and let's talk about my first book. Amazing. So my first book that I'll put as number 5 in my top 5 list of my favorite books I've read last year would definitely have to start off with They Both Die at the End. And you're going to be wow, that title is so giving that away of the storyline. But it's really funny because when I grabbed the book, I was oh yeah, well, they both die at the end. And when you read the book, you kind of are yeah, I know that they're both going to die at the end. But the funny thing is, though, is that when you're reading this book, you cannot help but you're no. Maybe the title is joking with you. Maybe the title is not what it actually is. And you're dying for these characters to stay alive. And you're there's no way that these two characters that you absolutely love and want to love are going to die at the end. But the title is what it is. And the title is what the book is about them dying at the end. No spoiler alerts because it's literally in the title. But why I love this book so much is, number one, it was a really easy book to kind of follow along with. It's kind of fantasy, and it's about a queer couple, well, two guys that end up falling in love. And it was kind of the book that introduced me to queer novels. I know that's so crazy, but there's so much books out there about romance or love or whatever it may be about another person in a relationship, even platonic, where the book is centered around a cis straight couple. And really, when I sat down to read They Both Die at the End, I thought the book was going to be about two guy friends that are best friends, and I was oh, that's kind of cool. But it ended up turning into a love story, and to be fair, it was what really opened my eyes. And I was by the end of this book, I was dry heaving of crying, because it was the first time I read a book that I was wow, I felt me, and I felt seen, and I felt the same kind of feelings that they were feeling as being a couple, and seeing that it was two males. It was just like such an incredible kind of feeling that I got to feel. So I honestly really, really enjoyed that book. And if anything, like that book kind of really opened my eyes to a whole different type of genre of books that I even, not that I never really like gave a chance to or didn't want to read, but I just like really didn't think that there was many out there that would be the type of level of reading that I would want to read. And to be fair, I was very wrong. So going into my number 4 slot, which is why number 5 kind of inspired me to go to this book, is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Now let me tell you, okay, let's take a sip because wow, this book. So basically you have two guys, and one is the first son of the first woman president in the United States, and he and the other character in the book is the Prince of England. And basically it talks about these two like falling in love, the Prince of England and the first son of the President of the United States. And when I tell you that this book not only destroyed me in ways I never thought I could be destroyed, but it was probably one of the most incredible queer books I've ever read. Like, hands down, character-wise, story-wise, the depth of the book, the people in the book, you literally just want to root for everybody in this book because it's so heart-wrenching. It's about two people from two different worlds falling in love in front of the world, you know? Imagine being queer, and then not only that, but like being somebody that has the duties, you know, and that, you know, normally in these, you know, the President of the United States or like, you know, the royals, you're expected to be what the standard default, what this world would call default, is straight, cis, marry a woman, have kids, you know, follow the legacy, continue the legacy. And imagine these two people, part of the most two powerful kingdoms in the world, and you are at the forefront of that, changing what is standard. It's an incredible, incredible read, and I truly, truly love this book. I was contemplating putting it on higher on the list and everything like that, but the reason I don't put up that higher, the top of this list is because I felt like I read some more complex reads that I felt like challenged me a lot more. But this book, just like overall, if I didn't have the other books in this, I would put it number 1. But this book, I just recommend everyone go out there. I don't have the physical copy, I have the digital copy. I want to buy the physical copy because I'm starting to build a library, and I really, really want to get a big bookshelf and have that. But man, this mother tucking book was incredible. Side note for the books, it's really funny. I got cotton yarn, and the reason I use cotton yarn is because I'm allergic to wool. So it's really, really soft, and like when you touch this, it's like so pillowy. Like, oh, it feels so nice. I love it. I don't know why I kissed it, but it's so nice. It's so, so nice. So if anyone is allergic to wool, you can order cotton wool or cotton yarn, and it feels incredible. The only finicky thing about the cotton is that it's like threads. So sometimes you can get your needle caught in like the individual threads, but you just have to be a little bit more aware of not where you put your needle. That's a life lesson right there for you. So number 3 is definitely going to be Ready Player One. And I've read this book twice now. And I read it the first time and I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. And then I remember like just kind of like forgetting about it and like just going on about my life and being like, well, that was a really good book. And it was during like a time when I like read a lot of books in succession. And I don't know if anyone can like relate to this, but sometimes like when you read a lot of books like in succession, like one that was really good may not stand out in like the group of books that you kind of read with it. You know what I mean? And not saying that the book was bad or whatever. It's on my top list. But it just was like one of those books where it was so jam-packed with like a big story, a lot of information that like at the end of the book you kind of were like, wow, that was a lot, you know what I mean? But I read it a second time and I forgot how incredible this book was. And I read Ready Player 2, and Ready Player 2 is trash. Sorry, it's trash. Number one is where it's at. It's revolutionary. But the reason why I love this book so much is I'm a huge gaming nerd. I love games. I love all types of games, whether that's on your PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch. I just love games. And so I was going into this like this book being like really excited because I love the games. I went into this book like being really excited because it's about games, and I thought it was going to be a little bit more about like pop culture games, like current games. But surprisingly, it was about a lot of vintage games, and it's about like also kind of a bigger spectrum of like the Oasis, which is kind of like a virtual reality type thing where everyone's kind of like living in because the world is kind of going to shit. I mean, life imitates art, or art imitates life, whatever it is. Honey, this book scares you a little. Okay? Whoa. The reason why I love this book so much is because it kind of like really educated me on a lot of like vintage games, and I researched a lot of the ones that were in the book, and it's really, really cool. I think the story is absolutely insane, and especially like it's a story and it's creating an entire world, right? Like in one book. And I don't think the book was meant to be a sequel. I think because of how popular Ready Player 1 was, they ended up doing Ready Player 2. But you have this massive, not only like the outside living world with these people, but you create this entire world of like the online Oasis. And it's so jam-packed with so much information, like visual context, that like you can't help but like really envision it. And when I watched the movie, it almost felt like everything that I felt like the Oasis was gonna look like, you know what I mean? And I think that just like is a hats off to like the author for being so good at like, visual like aid and like helping us like really get immersed. And I think that's why the book was so incredible, because I think that it may not have been an original idea, because we all know about we all live in a simulation type story, but he did it in a way that was really clever, that felt new and refreshing, because you add this spin of gaming on it, and this like kind of this game within a huge game on how to like unlock the secrets of Halliday that owns Oasis, and going on an adventure. So it's like an adventure game story but like life on the precipice of like failing. So it was like just such a broad, big book, and it really cohesively worked. But I think that's why Ready Player 2 failed, because the story didn't feel like it was new anymore. I felt like Ready Player 1 was like, such a new, fresh idea. And Ready Player 2 just felt like the same book, but just in a different, like, in the same scenario. It almost felt like quite similar, but the only thing new was like a new device. But at that point, it's like, am I really wanting to read a book because of a new device? Like, no, I needed more like, heightened. But Ready Player 1 was an incredible book, and I truly, truly love it. I think hands down, fantasy-wise, this book really, really takes it for me because of just how immense it is and how much I love like immersive gaming, because I have an Oculus. And it was just kind of like a really, really cool book to get into, and all the references and all that stuff is just, it was super, super cool. So, coming in to book number 2, which we're going to have some more wine. Okay. Coming into book number 2 is Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, let me tell you. I am a crime fanatic. I am a horror person fanatic. I am anything that has to do with like crime or anything. I'm already there. I'm already signing up. I mean, I do have a podcast. It's called Slay Away Podcast. It's a true crime podcast where I sit down with my friend Laura Blair and we talk about true crime. And it was really, really fun, and that is pending to come back. We do have episodes out, but we are back into recording our season, so check that out. But Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I remember picking this book up and reading the first chapter and being like, I hate it. I hate it. I can't get through it. Cannot get through it. And I remember just sticking it on my shelf and be like, well, never gonna read that one. Well, I started working on a cruise ship and I brought it with me because I was like, okay, well maybe if I'm like really just like strapped with like a lot of time on my hands, like I can just go and read a book and I don't care if I really like it or not. I am so glad I brought that book with me because this book, reason why it's number 2, is incredible. It is, the main character's a woman, which I'm already a sucker for like strong female leads. Like I just feel like when there's a strong female lead in a book, I mean, it really just hits a spot. Like seeing women powerful and like taking charge of their lives and like just being badass and like, and especially her in this book, like she never takes no for an answer from the men that are in this book. And it's just like such a great feminist book, but also great story. Basically, it's about this girl that, like, for her senior project, is reviewing a case, like a death in the city or in the town, and she comes to find out that it was actually a murder, not an accident. And she basically starts a podcast called Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and how she unravels the case. And I read the entire trilogy. I guess it's 30 books, a trilogy. And I mean, this is an incredible, incredible way to write a trilogy and everything feel completely full circle from start to finish. Now, to be fair, the first and third book are my favorite. The second book, it's great, but it's not like amazing. First and third were absolutely insane, and I think they're actually making a show, Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But just all the characters, the main character specifically, by the third book, you're just like really like trying to root for this girl. Like everything feels just like you are in love with this character. Like everything that she's going through, you feel like you're going through. And oh my Lord, I remember just like being so upset and crying after I finished the third book, not because anything like crazy happened, but because I just was like so sad to leave the book behind. Like I felt so sad that like it was one of my favorite books, and finishing it, I was like almost saying goodbye to the characters. But the other incredible thing is that we get to reread them and we get to revisit those characters, and that's why I love reading. But in that moment, it just felt like, you know, it was almost saying goodbye to my favorite characters at the time. And like, it was so good. Jam-packed with a lot of mystery. You don't even suspect it. And I'm like someone that can like really guess who's like gonna be the person, or I can kind of guess the story. But this book keeps you on the edge all the time. And like when you think it's one person, it's the other person. And when you think it's them, it's another person. And it's so good. So good. Friends. Good Girl Guide to Murder. And you know, it also made me feel too that I was like reading a book, and I mean, Drew, of course you're reading a book, but it was like reading a book that was like Bailey Sarian. Like it's almost told by that kind of perspective. Like if you know Bailey Sarian, she's a YouTuber that does Murder Makeup Mystery Mondays, but she also has Dark History now. And it almost just felt like kind of the same context, just like listening to someone, you know, rattle off a crime story, but you get to be a little bit more immersed in it, obviously. But because it's from like a podcast perspective, in some sense of the book, it just felt like you were just there, and it felt very, very like real for you. So I don't know, I loved it. I loved it. Going over these books, it's making me realize like how much I want to reread them. My gosh, I need to. But you know, when you like have already a list of books going that you need to read, I write down a bunch of my books that I want to read in like a notepad or like on my notes app, and then I like keep adding to it and then I can never get ahead of myself. It's very me. Very me. Now, coming to number 1 in this list. And when I tell you, I'm very passionate about this book. I mean, very passionate about this book. Oh my God, just thinking about it makes me so emotional. The Midnight Library. Let me tell you. This book was originally referred to me by my friend Lucy, who read this book. Incredible. Incredible. I mean, I refer this book to everybody. When they say they want to read a book, I'm like, this book. You want to read this book. You want to read this book. And so without giving too much away, because the whole fun thing about this story is just unraveling it and unpacking it. Basically, it's about this woman who's no longer happy with her life. And she ends up, committing that. And she finds herself in this purgatory state called the Midnight Library. And she meets the librarian who offers for her to go back into these stories and these moments in her life where if she didn't turn that down or she didn't say yes to that or say no to that, she would be able to live that alternative life and see it. And through all this stuff, you have this perspective of life, and we think to ourselves what if things were different? What if I chose to do that? Or what if I chose to do this or whatever? And you come to find out that life works out the way that it's meant to. We take the path that is almost kind of meant for us. And we could either enjoy what we're living now and where we're at now in life, or we could regret everything and never feel content or happy with the life we have. And this book really just opened up the floodgates for me. It touched a special place in my heart. It made me feel things that I know that I felt throughout my life, being did I make the right decision? Did I not? And the book is just beautifully written, and it's about a really heavy subject. But when you read it, you go through these ups and downs of this character. You start to think about yourself and think about your life, and you think about your existential self and what role you play in this universe or play in this life, And so I truly think that this book changed my life, and I've read it twice now. I've referred it to everyone, and I'm referring it to you now because it truly gathered me. It truly did teach me so much, and it made me think about a lot of myself when I read the book, and it was quite a heavy read. I had to set it down a few times just because you're sitting at night in bed and reading this really heavy book, and then it makes you think about all these things, and you're like, whoa. But in the end, though, when I reached the finish, I truly walked away being like, whoa, that really, really made me feel like I went through a therapy session. It was so nice. It was so nice. So I wholeheartedly believe that everyone should read The Midnight Library. That is my number 1 slot. It is my number 1 pick, and I probably will read it for a third time when I need a nice little pick-me-up reminder that life is just crazy and the things work out the way that they're meant to work out, So that is basically where I'm at with my books. So I want to give a little shout out to a book that I'm reading right now. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy, who is on iCarly as Sam. She truly wrote a masterpiece of a book. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't want to put it in my list of my favorite books this year. But maybe I'll add it into maybe an updated one that I do next year. But this book, I think everyone should read it. The reason I feel this way is because kind of what Jennette talks about in this book is, when we talk about our mothers, it's a very, very sore, no touching subject. And, we can talk about our fathers and what our fathers have done wrong to us or how our fathers wronged us and that they're deadbeats, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to our moms, we're supposed to hold our moms at this high standard, and Jennette does this incredible way of writing this book about her mom that is along the lines of I loved my mom. I loved everything about her, but I can't excuse the suffering and pain and the trauma that she put me through. And she is glad her mom died. It helped her release that kind of connection her mom had to her. And I get it. I just think overall the book, the way that where I'm at right now, is just going in such an incredible direction. I'm actually almost done with it, and I can't wait to finish it because I can't wait to plaster it everywhere. But I felt like it was quite necessary to give this book a little bit of a shout out just because I'm reading it right now, and I definitely think that if I were finished with it, I would have put it in my list. And thinking, what book would I push out if I read this book? It's quite funny because all my books are kind of almost like different genres too. You know, if I was finished with this book, I'd probably put it at number 2 and then shift everything down. So They Both Die at the End would probably be knocked off because I really do love this book. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys sat back and relaxed with me and got comfy. This was actually really like cozy, and I'm so glad I did this. I've just been so uninspired lately, not because I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, but just because I feel very just like kind of down right now. It's hard to get out of that like depressive episode or that depressive low, but I'm getting there, and I hope with like every video I do, I get more comfortable with, I get better at, I'm editing better, and I hope you guys are enjoying these. And don't be afraid to send me a comment or a DM or whatever it may be, telling me that you want a certain video or you'd like to see a certain thing or hear about a certain thing. I've been thinking about doing maybe a kind of my visa process story. I feel like a lot of people have been interested in that, but I don't know. Tell me what you like and I'll do it. But thank you so much for coming back to my channel and sitting down with me. Maybe you had some wine, maybe you didn't, maybe you knitted, maybe you didn't. But as long as it just took you away from the world for a wee second so that you could sit back and relax with me, I hope it did. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, and I hope you have a good sleep or a good morning, whatever you're at in this world. But remember, please hit that subscribe, click that like, and also please ring that bell so that you get notifications when I post new videos. I hope you enjoyed your time here, and stay tuned to the next video so that you can come get comfy with me. Bye!